Good evening, class, and welcome to the second installment of Flipped Classroom, Once a Runner. Today we are exploring whether or not Quenton Cassidy is a hero by the 9 classical standards handout that I gave you today in class, for you to decide on your own and see if you agree or disagree, and we will discuss that tomorrow in class. Number 1, unusual circumstances of birth. Quenton Cassidy was not launched into space like Superman when he was born. He was not born out of the ocean like a Greek mythological hero. So Quenton Cassidy for number 1, no. He is not there were no unusual circumstances of his birth. Number 2, leaves family or land. Yes, Quenton Cassidy, when he was kicked out of Southeastern University, has to leave his family, which is his cross-country family, and he has to leave his land, which would be the track and the training trails he would run on with his team, which would be his family. So yes, Quenton Cassidy does leave his land, and he does leave his family. For number 3, an event, sometimes traumatic, leads to adventure or quest. Yes, again, as Quenton Cassidy led all the student athletes to undermine their athletic director, that was an event that got him expelled from Southeastern University, which I would consider traumatic for him, which leads to adventure or quest, which from that point till the end of the novel, you could consider it an adventure where he is trying to improve himself, he is trying to become a better runner, and a quest for the 4-minute mile. So once again, Quenton Cassidy gets the check mark. So he is 2 out of 3 for being a hero. Number 4, special weapon only he can wield. Now this one, he doesn't have a weapon like a sword or bow and arrows. He's not like Hawkeye from the Avengers or Superman, where he has a special weapon where only he can wield. But he does have a special weapon that very few can yield, which is the trial of miles, which anyone can do for a short amount of time, but no one can do it forever, as we see throughout the novel and when that's explained. So maybe you could consider his ability to kick the last 400 meters of the mile a special weapon, or his endurance to be a special weapon, because he is such an elite athlete. For the entirety of the novel, you could consider his ability at running to be a special weapon. But it's not something that only he can wield, because there are other people on his team and inside the city that he lives in that hold the same special weapon or weapons that he does. So unfortunately, we have to give Quenton Cassidy the X for that one. Number 5, always has supernatural help. You could consider Bruce Denton, who has won a gold medal, to be supernatural help, because winning a gold medal is an incredibly rare achievement. But Bruce Denton can't fly or jump over buildings or reverse time, so as great as Bruce Denton is, he cannot be considered supernatural help. So again, the X. Number 6, proves himself many times while on adventure. As we see throughout the many races that Quenton Cassidy runs, he proves himself at the national championship in cross country, which is not his event, and he doesn't like the cold and the mud and the inability to see the finish line. He proves himself at the Wanamaker Mile by winning it. He proves himself the race that he runs 4 minutes and 1/10 of a second in the mile. And he proves himself once again in the final race, beating the best distance runner in the world at his best distance. So yes, I believe Quenton Cassidy did prove himself many times while on an adventure, which makes it 3-3 on Quenton Cassidy being a hero or not. Number 7, the journey and the unhealable wound. Well, as we know, the journey throughout the novel is Quenton Cassidy trying to find not only himself and his purpose, but he's trying to decide if he is able to run a sub 4-minute mile, something that has been done many times, something that Roger Bannister did 20 years before he did. So yes, he has the journey, but what the unhealable wound would be is harder to assess. Is it the inability to get Andrea when Quenton Cassidy is out running in the rain and he sees the man with the umbrella? Is it the unhealable wound that he is separated from his team? Is it the unhealable wound that he knows he will never run at this level again once he leaves college? So he has the journey and he has unhealable wounds, but using the word the as a definite article, I don't think there's one single unhealable wound, but there's smaller healable wounds that he endures, so that gets an X. Number 8, atonement with the father. Now, Quenton Cassidy, throughout the novel, doesn't really discuss his parents or his family or really ambitions beyond running, so I don't think he seeks atonement with the father, which would be the athletic director Doobie, which he's also the football coach, and Quenton Cassidy and Dick Doobie do not see eye to eye on almost any issue, so I don't feel Quenton Cassidy seeks atonement with the father. I don't feel like he really cares what Doobie thinks about him because he's a free thinker. So again, Quenton Cassidy gets the X for that one. And number 9, which can be considered a little bit contentious because he doesn't actually die. Number 9, hero dies, is rewarded spiritually. Quenton Cassidy, at the end of the mile race, where you don't know how it's going to end, where he's in lane 2, the lane of high hopes, you wonder if he has the ability to finish. And honestly, to run that fast for that long, I would not have been surprised if he had died, if this was a Greek tragedy or a Roman myth, but it was an American novel, so obviously, the hero is going to live, but you weren't sure if he was going to win or not. So the hero dies and is rewarded spiritually. The hero, in a sense, does die. Quenton Cassidy, as a man who had not run sub 4 minutes in a legitimate mile with legitimate competition, is dead, and Quenton Cassidy is rewarded spiritually with the ability and the knowledge that he can run the sub 4 minute mile against anyone. And as we find out later in the novel, he has won a silver medal in the 1500. We actually learn that at the beginning of the book, but we also learn that only through this mile race does he have the capacity. So the question is Quenton Cassidy a hero in the sense that we would compare him to Beowulf or to Poseidon or to Hercules? No, because he doesn't have all 9 of the characteristics. But as an American literary hero, he has enough of the characteristics to be considered a modern American hero by our conventions and by what we believe is important. And we could also add modernized ideals of what a hero should be. A hero should be honest and hardworking. Quenton Cassidy is most of those things. A hero should be a little bit sneaky, which I think is important, where the hero achieves his goals no matter what the means, which Quenton Cassidy does throughout the novel. And I believe a hero should be someone that others can emulate and try to become more like, which I think Quenton Cassidy does. And he's not an anti-hero. At no point do you feel Quenton Cassidy is a bad person or a bad character. You aren't ever rooting against him. So I think Quenton Cassidy can be seen as a hero. And I would like your response and what other characteristics you think the modern hero should have. And bring in 3 to 5 characteristics of what you would think a hero today in literature or comic books or a movie would possess. Thank you once again, class. Signing off.